I feel like I've seen enlightenment, and I thought it was going to be about levitating and telekinesis, and it's actually just about an increased awareness of how annoying I am.
Beginning to feel the desire to want to change my seat or change our location.
Really? Where to?
Recording. I just enjoyed the other day, a freshness being in a different location. I don't want to change. I like it in here, but maybe it's maybe we switch sides, or maybe I'll just sit upside down instead of sitting.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
I just enjoy. Things start to get stale to me when it's the same environment. It's a sickness.
I have that too, but it has to be exactly the same until I get completely sick of it, and then it's an instant decision to change it.
I used to change my bedroom when I was a kid, every couple months.
That was the only way I could clean my room when I was young. I would rearrange the furniture and then be forced to clean it. It's the only thing that would motivate me to do it. I believe that is ADHD. I'm so fucking glad to be home.
You're back.
And now I have to leave again tomorrow.
Bye.
Good to see you.
That's the longest time we've been apart, huh? For a while.
Yeah, I think since we permanently moved in together in the fall of 2020, that's the longest we've been apart.
Oh, yeah, because there was that, when you were living in Arizona temporarily.
Yeah, we kind of stayed together for a little bit of the pandemic, and then I moved to Arizona for 3-4 months, and I came back.
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt like I was floating.
Yeah, it was interesting to be out in the world. I'm glad it was during spring, because I first of all missed the pollen here, which is very nice. And
I just sat in a fucking pile of pollen for a week.
I mean, it was even polite enough to rain the day that I got in.
The day you arrived,
to
it
rinse
just
it
washed
out.
away.
Because it does. I was never had allergies before, but it's just North Carolina pollen fucks me up.
Meanwhile, it inoculated me to step into my power.
Yeah, you came back I came back to a whole different man. It's weird out there. It's weird out there in the Matrix. It was cool to go out into the world. And I gotta be honest, there's been this feeling since 2020 where I described it as I'm not allowed to roam about the cabin. I don't know. It feels like trying to do anything in the physical reality that's engaging with the world is such a challenge. It feels like I have a giant backpack of rocks that I'm trying to carry with me. And in 2020 and 2021, it was like impossible to travel to, I mean, I know it was like banned, but like at one point there was something happened with like a dental implant and I had to fly across the country. And it just, or even like I remember one time me and Lacey were in 2020, were trying to drive a comforter to a laundromat because it wouldn't fit in our washer. And I remember just being like, God, it feels like you're trying to like run through Jello or something. And that feeling has slowly waned over the last few years. And it definitely like, I think I can feel the energy of the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix saying, stop, like slow down and sit, go inward, you know? And then I just think the end of Neptune and Pisces is just so much goo, just such a fucking fuzzy energy. And I'm so glad we have Neptune in Aries now. Maybe I'll regret that in the future, but I think it's too much.
So you felt much easier to
Oh
be
my God. I felt
world.
like for the first time since 2019, I felt like I could just exist in the world and I wasn't being like, I wasn't like swimming upstream energetically. Now it was
it just at your shows? Because I mean, you have like obviously a lot of people that are there to support you, but what even like in the hotel, in the airport?
Yeah, and I don't know how to describe it because it's not, I'm still very much in my own reality. But physically, it was like my physical body was like in resistance to me trying to be in the world in the last 5 years. And so it was just like physically walking down the street did not feel like I was operating in resistance. The shows were great. There was one, like, I don't know, the Arizona show got a little bit weird. I was on beta blockers for the whole week. So a lot of the things that are ordinarily challenging about shows were just a lot easier. I don't have time to learn that part again. But there is, this is always tricky to talk about because if I'm saying it to someone who's still like believes in hierarchy, it sounds hierarchical and it's not. But one thing, like I don't look at the world that way, so I don't think of things that way. But we do live in a completely different reality with like completely different categories of reason. And outside of people, because a lot of people from like that listen to this podcast and stuff came, and so like outside of conversations with them, I do feel I'm finding it harder and harder to connect. It's not bothering me at all. I have a huge bubble of people that I have you and my friends and everything else and people that listen to this podcast. Like, but it's just, I think this is my first time kind of me going out into the world and spending like 8 straight days out in the world with people that just operate with different categories of reason is the only way I know how to put it. Like the lens I'm looking at things through is different. And I have just spent, because of the goo feeling and the feeling like I really can't roam about the cabin and have mostly stayed home and kind of bubbled, the stark contrast of, and it almost felt like there wasn't a bridge to connect to some people. And so there was a lot of masking then that wasn't like hard because I was very conscious of it, where I think I was awake for a long time and I learned a long time ago, it's easier to just meet people where they're at than try to be yourself, or try to get people to understand where you're coming from. But that masking that I used to do came from a place of like also having a deep desire to not be seen as weird or crazy or whatever. Where now the masking I did in the last week was really just like, we got to get through this. I'm basically hanging out in an environment that's like not my environment. And so I'm just got to do whatever we got to do to get through this, But when I was editing our episode that we did remotely, it was very loud to me that I was like a week into masking at that point, because I don't even sound like myself. And that I sound like I'm talking to you like I don't know you or something. Like, did you pick up on that?
Yeah,
like I'm
I
interviewing you, like this like intimate kind of.
Yeah, it's more calm and still. Like you're speaking from a very like still place here, and there it was like you were like talking at me. Kind of.
Yeah, it was cringy. I almost didn't put it out, but I didn't want to miss it.
I noticed it, and I just thought like, yeah, maybe it's because we're really far from each other, and you're in kind of another timeline, like another mode of operation. That's kind of what I thought it was. I didn't know.
Yeah, I could hear the like. I could hear the bravado, first of all. Like, I rely on bravado. If I don't feel safe, then you see this kind of more loud, my energy's kind of like pushing, and I acting much more dominant than I actually am I'm not really like that as a person. And I mean, part of it was the audio thing. It was like disorienting. You know, I'm using AirPods and stuff, so I'm kind of yelling, and I can kind of yell sometimes if someone's not right in front of me for me to understand the volume we're supposed to be at. Autism. But the masking was very loud to me because I was like, why am I talking to him like I've never met him before? He's a dude I'm interviewing on my podcast. So that I kind of started to hit a wall of that. I was like kind of exhausted with, and I know Aaron very well. We're very close, and so that was a comfort. But yeah, so I'm just afraid this sounds like I'm being an asshole, but the more I unmask autism, I guess it is, but I also think there's something about autism and the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix, like that authenticity of like an unmasked autistic person. But the more I unmask, the more I just want to be extremely direct. And I just like the fake, like the talking because we're standing next to each other. I just want to be like, we don't have to talk. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that you're not interested in me and I'm not interested in you, and that's fine. Like, that doesn't mean that there's something bad. We're just like not in the same reality. And the pretending to care, like I can hear you not really caring about me, or if you are asking me about me, it's because you're trying to determine like if you can get something. Like, these were like green room conversations I fucking hated in stand up. It's all like climbing. People are climbing each other. They don't even know they're doing it. And, you know, or like wanting to brag or something. I hate all this shit.
Yeah.
And so going back to stand up specifically on shows where it's not just me and Aaron, I'm just like having these dynamics again. And I'm like, oh my God, like I used to turn myself into a pretzel to fit into these things. And now I can just read it clear as day. And it's like, oh, you don't. Yeah. I just want to be like, shh, we don't have to talk. Like, literally, we don't have to talk. I'm never going to talk to you again after this. You don't care about me as a person. I don't have any opportunities for you. I'm not, you know, I don't need more friends. Like, we've had 15 minutes here together. We don't have to talk, you know? Yeah. But I feel like a dick, but it's exhausting. And it's different when you like meet someone and they're actually into you, or they actually want to share themselves. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who don't know how to be quiet because they feel like they need to fill the time, or people who don't even like know what their motivation is, you know? Yeah.
Do you feel like you can see those things clearly? Like, kind of, there's that thing that, I mean, some people put it into a hierarchy, and that's maybe what you're kind of trying to avoid, is that the idea that like when you start to do enough work on yourself and know your kind of shadow desires, and you start to just get more in balance with yourself, when you go back out in the world, you can see things you didn't see before because you were so caught up in masking and trying to fit in that you start to see kind of like the energy behind people's words, you know, like more clearly.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can see in some, like you can see the lack of a better word, like the demon energy behind them, kind of, that is just like, oh, that's that thing.
Yeah.
That I don't like, I actually just don't really want to engage with you. I'm not afraid of it. I just am like, there's nothing here, you know? And it's.
Yeah, I think in the past, I like how we're like not hierarchical demon energy. Yeah.
I can't think of another word, but you know what I'm saying. It's like
yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
It's wider. It's like you have a wider perspective, so you see the things. It's not higher, but.
I think I've had the gift of discernment or whatever. I came back from the near-death experience with that. But our discernment is hindered by the ways in which, by all the ways in which we're not self-aware. So if I'm emotionally attached, the discernment doesn't work because the discernment is going to tell me clearly what's happening. It's if I'm attached to pedestalizing you or you being a villain, then I'm not going to be able to see the clear discernment because I'm projecting.
Right.
Any ways in which we're not awake yet to the ways we are projecting onto other people, we don't get to use the discernment. And so I think in the past, I was not awake to the part of me that desperately wanted to be liked. So I was trying to be chosen. And so when I would be out at a comedy show, especially on stage, I would be preoccupied with wanting to be liked by the people in the audience, which, I mean, it's a fine time to be liked. But so I used to walk into a room and start taking the inventory of all the people in the room, and I would be like, oh, that person's too old, they're not going to like me. That person looks like maybe they're a Christian, they're not going to like me, like whatever. Because I was not fully in my power. I mean, I guess I knew I wasn't in my power back then, but I had a fear of people being mad at me. I had a fear of people not liking me, and it was a massive hindrance to my own discernment. Because if I was in there in my discernment, I would understand that, if someone doesn't like me when I'm on stage, it's either because I'm not their cup of tea and everyone's not everyone's cup of tea. And all the artists that I really love and respect are not everyone's cup of tea. I'm actually not attracted to things that are universally palatable. And I never, as an artist, have found being universally palatable as appealing. And so I could understand that, but then the glitch in the system for me is my own fear, like my own nervous system equating not being liked with danger, right. I think. And so something that was way different, and I don't know how much beta blockers help this. I got beta blockers that don't affect your mind at all, but I've just never cared less if I'm liked. And so this filter that I used to have every time I was out in public, where I was just worrying about how everyone else is perceiving me, is really gone. And now it's just like, I can see when people don't like me, which is a lot, I can see the way that they're engaging with it from their perspective. And it's not like, well, it's their shit. It's just like, yeah, in your world, I am not your cup of tea, or I am playing a role for you.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's like in their world, like you're supposed to be this version that they're seeing you as. There's no sense in fighting it and trying to change that because it's advantageous for them for some weird reason that they maybe don't know, that you need to be some contrasted figure, some villain or something that they don't like. It's much easier to just go, oh, cool, I'll just be that role for you. I'm not going to fight it.
Right. And I think that's such a game changer for me in talking about consciousness more than anything else, because there are a lot of aspects to this process that are triggering for people. Like if you want to get beyond absolute surface level spirituality, you have to start to venture into shadows and things that you're afraid of and whatever. And I have always kept those things pretty quiet because I know that it's like playing Operation. And when you start to be like really honest about the truth of how the giant writhing imagination works, you're going to trigger a lot of people. And I just didn't have the nervous system for that, where now it's just like, yeah, well, it's going to trigger you because this is like one of the ways in which you are still kind of stuck in a hamster wheel matrix trap, And so for that, I think it's really important for comedy. I would find the one person in the room that hated it and then just fixate on that person. And now there was just like, at every show, there were people who didn't laugh once, and I just could not have cared less. And I'm sure the beta blockers helped because I wasn't swimming upstream of like nervous system responses, but I just mentally was like, I have to get this story ready for something else. And I'm like, if I just walk into a show and absolutely bomb, then that's just going to help me even more. But it was interesting to like have that discernment on lock while on stage. and like catch eye contact with someone and kind of start reading their energy while I'm talking and like read the perspective from which they are engaging with it. And I could not have done that. I've had that ability for a long time, but I've not been able to use that ability because I was living in a filter of my own wanting to be chosen. But like after transcending that need to be chosen, did that interrupt that? Probably not. No. Who knows if I've permanently transcended it, but it was a completely different experience. And it also like the masking was exhausting, but the masking wasn't a survival mechanism. And I'm sure there's another level to this where I don't have to mask. And it wasn't like hardcore masking. I mostly kept to myself. I really prioritized like alone time, and then on the last show I had hit a wall. I was done. I was like whining all day. I wanted to go home. That was way too long. And on the last day, someone like, I don't know, a friend of the podcast or something, like one of us came. I hate to make it tribal, but you know what I mean? Someone with the same categories of reason came to the
frequency, show. Just resonating, vibrating in the same.
Yeah. And for once, because there were lots of people, that came to shows, but I was like having to sign posters and sell t-shirts and stuff. And this show was not a Mormon and the Meth Head show. And it was mostly people there to see Aaron or, people vibing with Aaron, like kind of like an ex-Mormon community or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I got to sit back. I didn't have to sell t-shirts or sign posters. And she came up and we sat and talked for like 45 minutes. And it was so regulating and restoring because it was like I've just got to have a conversation about the things that I think about, because we had other comics with us at different points. And it was like, I was not hiding myself. I don't hide myself now, but it's that thing where I say something, about the collapse of infrastructure or whatever, and then it just gets silent because nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And they probably think I'm nuts, and then they talk about what they're into. And I'm just like, I don't care about this. And it's not like I'm better. There were, you know what I mean? But it's like, it feels like people talking to me about football. And then I try to talk about, background frequencies. And then they're like,
there's no crossover.
There's no crossover. And so it is just, and it's not like this with Aaron, because Aaron will let me blab about, but he had people with him for a lot of it. And so most social interactions I had were just an absolute miss. And it just was very loud to me, like, oh, how much of my life I put myself into these kind of situations. And while still having the shadow of wanting to be chosen or wanting to be liked, Where this time I just kind of said, didn't hide who I was or what I was thinking. Like in the past, I didn't trust people to not think I'm crazy. I like literally could not give two shits if you think I'm crazy now. But it just was, I don't know, unsatisfying. And I thought I was feeling much more safe until I heard that podcast. But I know that when I get like loud and bravado like that, it's because I don't feel safe. So I'm like making my energy really big.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting how there's like so much of us, like when the desire to mask and like continue a conversation that you actually don't find any resonance in is seen as like, oh, we got to be respectful, like let's let this other person talk about what they're interested in. And then let me see if I can pull out something that that resonates with something that I'm into. And then we'll try to force a bridge of connection here. Is looked at as being like socially,
polite
and respectful. But there's so much talk about people kind of saying like, find your tribe, find the people that are in resonance, and kind of like figure out how to compassionately ditch the people that are just not in resonance anymore. And it's really difficult when they're people that you care about or people you've spent a lot of time with in your life, family members. But I don't know, as I learn more and more information about myself and like kind of the reality we're in, I really am starting to understand the importance of just being honest and blunt in those situations to and not like see it as being rude and not polite to just kind of put distance between people like that, because we're getting into a place where like if you aren't around people that are in similar frequency and vibration, which is allowing yourself to be more authentic, then you're getting caught up in potential, relationships, even if they're just momentarily conversing with someone that like are not allowing you to be yourself. And when you mask, you're kind of people pleasing to be something other than yourself, which is, it's like dangerous is what I like. The only word I can think of that it's kind of like, that's where other energies that are more dominant in the reality can kind of make you do things that like make you susceptible to other distortions or like timelines that you don't want to be on, to the point where like you can kind of, I don't know if there's somebody that's really like you're not in frequency with, but they are nice, and then they ask you like, hey, do you want to go out afterwards? We're going to this like coffee shop that's like a game thing, and like you should come, it's going to be fun. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess I will, because you're not being honest and you don't want to be rude. And then you go there, and then like some bad event happens there or something, and you weren't able to discern an actual message coming through your body that's like, no, don't go there.
Yeah, like if our motivator, as the world becomes more and more unstable, and like safety and security does not come from the cross-up planning was like someone else will handle it. I do my one thing, and then someone else will handle everything else. And as the planes keep having issues and all these things keep having issues, we're realizing that you can't count on anyone other than yourself. So yeah, if you're like, someone's like, you should come out with us, and your priority is managing that person's experience of you, then you can't tell if your body is saying don't go there because it's not safe, or if your body is saying don't go there because I don't want to have this social interaction. Like right. If you're not yeah.
And that's what we're getting into a place of reality where it's like really listening to yourself and knowing your intuition and having that discernment on lock is the only thing that is going to kind of protect you. And it's not going to come through some logical thinking. Like you wouldn't be able to discern that some dangerous thing is going to happen there, whatever it is, if you're like being pulled by emotional, social like constructs that like actually you can't predict like what's going to happen through that lens, And right. So I think that's what that idea is of kind of like find your tribe, surround yourself with like-minded people, not because we're building other cliques and tribes and cults. It's because it is your only way to kind of secure safety and being able to completely be honest in a situation. Therefore, your sensitivity is like much more heightened, and you can tell in any given moment, I need to step left because there's some brick falling from the sky or something,
Yeah.
And being able to do that, it's just very difficult when you are performing for other people and kind of in this people-pleasing lock, And it is one thing to understand it. It's a whole different thing to like in the moment be able to respond and do that, In a high-pressure situation, it's very difficult to overcome some of those deeper programmings that are like very cross the planning,
Yeah, I think for me, one of them is like, I don't want to seem like a flake, is a area in which my body has been like, cancel this thing, and then I haven't canceled it. It never goes well when I don't do that. I have to go to the bathroom again. But the amount of energy that it takes, and it's like a hard conversation to have because people get their feelings hurt by it. Because it is a conversation like around like autism and neurodivergence and unmasking. So like my unmasked 15-year-old is interested in the things they're interested in, and that's it. And they're not interested in anything else. And so when sometimes I talk to the 15-year-old and I tell them something that they're not interested in at all, like, as we're updating the house, the 11-year-old wants to be involved in all that. And she's very into it because she's very into aesthetics and she wants to be a designer when she grows up. So when the 11-year-old, and she's also not, she's probably ADHD, but she doesn't have autism. So She comes in and it's like, look, we got this light or whatever. She's like, oh, I love it. But then if I bring Phoenix in and go, oh, look, we updated this light, Phoenix will look at me like, why are you telling me this? And, you know, I could, if I'm going by these like fragile Western, more like, manner programming, be like, you need to pretend to care about the things that I care about, or, you know, if you loved me you would care about things that, but it's just the child doesn't give a fuck and doesn't, like, their brain doesn't work that way. It's not something they think about, and so they don't understand it. But the same child, when having like interpersonal conflict with their friends, like, they know that's my special interest. And they have learned over time, I, you know, am probably not the person to talk to about an anime show because my eyes glaze over. But if you come talk to me about conflict with your friends, I can sit there for hours and talk about it because of my special interests. And so they have kind of, as they've gotten older, discerned what I'm really into. Now they're my child, so I am going to go, oh, cool, when they're talking about the anime. But, you know, they're getting to the age where they can feel the vibes. They're like, oh, you hate this? Yeah. But because I've never pressured this child to mask, at home they're extremely unmasked. And then I homeschooled them for most of their life. And so they're extremely unmasked and comfortable just being like, my brain doesn't care about land. Like, I don't even know I don't even know the difference between that and the other light, you know? Yeah. And so I don't take it personally. I have just, same thing. It's like, I love this child, so I am going to, and I know that this child is, you know, balls out autistic and likes the things that they like. They're interested in the things that they're interested in. And so those are the things for us to connect over. And I don't really know how to describe it to people who aren't like that. It's like, when the child comes to me to talk to me about their friends having conflict, it's giving me energy because I'm getting excited to share my insight on things that I'm really interested in. When I have to talk about anime, same child, same person. It's not about the person. It's when my brain is forced to focus on something that I don't care about. This is why school was hard for me. It's draining. And so when I have to get together and have conversations with people, it's not the person. It's the topic a lot of times, or it's like I can feel it in the ether that you don't give a fuck about me, because you could talk to me about a topic, you know, that you're super excited about. And sometimes I can feed off the excitement sometimes, you know, but it is deeply draining to connect to people when it's fake, when we're just doing this because you don't know how to sit here and be quiet. Like, I can sit in a room, be quiet with people at this point in my life. I remember what it feels like to feel like you have to keep talking constantly so that you can figure out if you're safe. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm glad to be home, even though I have to go right back out. But the next two little outings are short, and you'll be with me for one of them.
Yeah.
I definitely could not go back to stand up. For sure. I'm like, nobody should have ever let me find out that you could talk into a microphone in your living room. I guess that was going to be the end of me doing stand up. I only like stand up because it was like a way to do art, you know? It was like art. You could make a living doing art. And then someone was like, you can do that on your couch. And I was like, okay, well,
that's how I was with music. I like so much more enjoyed playing music at home in my studio. I had my own timeline. I could do it when I wanted, as opposed to the tour, go, 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 go. You got to be here. You got to be here. And it was really fun for a while. Like, that's every musician's dream, is to be able to tour the world and play to huge crowds. But it does become very taxing and difficult to, you know, be malleable and change. It's like, I actually just don't want to play a show today. Well, you can't do that because we've got like 500 people that have showed up. We've got the techs that are being paid. If we take a day off, you're going to be out of money. You're going to be, it's like, there's no give. I feel so much more satisfied artistically and just energetically being able to be still, you know, and just like where I'm at in my life too. It's not for everybody, but do you want to go pee?
Yeah.
Do you want a spider? I don't have to pee actually, so never mind.
Can you find them something weird? Play them another mushroom tape.
Let me see if I can find one. The Rue one? Oh, the one that I labeled Rue. Luckily, the one that I randomly picked last time was not very embarrassing. It was a little embarrassing, but I've got some wild ones on here that I don't know if I will share. Let's see. This one's called Rue. Why I named it Rue, I do not know.
Oh God, I'm never gonna be able to get this out. Gotta start like that. You're up for failure now. Okay, the idea that reverb is reverb. Something with reverb. Okay. It's reverb. That there's... No, that's not even it. Let me think about this for a second.
Off to a great start.
Okay, I took the mushrooms on an empty stomach. Therefore, most, so I can absorb them the most, I guess. This is what this is. I'm trying to sound scientific. It's fucking stupid. This is why the shit can make you sound schizophrenic. But the information, that's what it is. Oh my God. It's revelation after revelation. It's just profound with this. Goodness. Okay, I'm going to try to push through and talk about it.
This is how I remember the recordings.
That cricket's saying more than I am.
Yeah. Oh, I miss the Nashville crickets.
Whoa. Okay. I'm going to keep this recording. But I'm turning the light off. But like the light is... yeah, it's not the light. Okay, so I keep the light on. Dude, all I can say is like, it just sounds like...
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, so this is just mental. But this is irrelevant. Why are we even here? There it is. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, well, we gotta play with this. Hold on. It's too dark. It's making me...
You just turn the light on and off?
I have to evoke it, but there... Okay, let me just get out of this fucking... Yo. No, see, I want it... Whoa. All right, fuck it. I'll go back in.
I said, fuck it, I'll go back in.
The thing is,
at that point, I said, I just heard me, I said, I'm just going to let it go, the recording. And then I laid down and it was like, this is all mental. I'm going in. I love that I was like, I can't explain it in this slow language.
Yeah, I feel like when you're on mushrooms, it's very loud how clunky the physical reality is.
Yeah, because that's what I was glitching in the beginning. I said, I realize I'm trying to sound scientific. And I was like, get out of the way, whatever this fucking thing is. The ego kept trying to be like, okay, yeah, but now present it, think about what they're going to think of. And I was like, there's no fucking time. No, it's bleh, is all I wanted to do. And you can't. And so I kept, I was hyper aware that I was trying to sound smart and scientific. And in that space, that's just doesn't work. You're
right.
It's not there. So the act of having it recording was fucking the trip up. And that's why it was like, no, turn the light off, go out. No. And then it was like, no, come back here. The mushroom was. It was like, turn the light off, evoke the thing. And it was like, yeah, it kept glitching, you know?
Yeah. That sounds like my internal monologue on a regular day, though, where it's like, maybe I need mute, maybe I need to, where am I at? That's like ADHD in a bottle.
I finally, on one of those, I don't know if it was that one, but there was like this attempt to record and kind of like speak out loud. At one point, I remember getting like shoved down by an energy that was like, shh, but it was like a real forceful, like, shut the fuck up. Like, and then it was kind of an awareness that it was like, you're attracting too much shit to you right now. Like, you need to shut up or this is not going to go well. Like,
right.
Like sit down and let it happen, please. You know? And I remember being very alarmed and going like, oh, okay. Like, I felt like a little kid being excited in a situation where you're like, it's in a library or something. And they're like, hey, mommy. And finally, like, an adult came over and was like, hey, shut your kid up or you're out of here. You know, that's what it felt like.
Well, when you think about what the awakening is, it's like, it's remembering. We've been deep sea diving for thousands of years. And it just brings me to the first YouTube comment I want to talk about. We've been deep sea diving for thousands of years. And now we're coming up, but we have to like come up slowly. And so we don't fuck our bodies up. And then we have to recover from being deep in the unconsciousness. And so the purpose of the mushrooms at that point is to help you remember, and that you can hear you remembering that. You're like, oh shit. Okay. So it's that. But then our fucking egos are like, oh, I'm actually here to get this information to share it. And so it's, you know, I did a session with someone the other day who had only been awake for like 5 months. And she was already like, yeah, so I just don't know what I'm supposed to do next. And I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to do anything. You're going to be waking up for the next 5 years. And that's it. That's your whole job. And the reason that like TikTok and Instagram spirituality is so fucking unhinged is because nobody caught these baby aliens and said, just fucking wake up. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you feel like you know everything right now. I did too. Thank fucking Christ social media wasn't a thing because I didn't have an option. But you don't know anything yet. You're still remembering. And so it's like, let me bring this microphone so that I can gather these for some purpose, you know? And it's like you're literally in school, you know?
And then the other cringy thing, like now that's obviously more possible with social media, is that the idea of like trying to monetize that information or create like, I'm going to now go heal people and I'm going to be a shaman and that, the ego is so quick to jump in and try to take this like personal information and flip it around and leverage it for some material success or some material gift, you know, which is the antithesis of that play. It's like not what it's about. But yeah, it's so funny. I just always, when I stopped recording them because I felt like that was messing the experience up. It's like the electronics or something. Like I would feel really great, and then I could like record it I was really recording it for my own benefit later, like because you would forget a lot of the things. But it's as if like it would be so clear, and then I'd hit record, and it was like the electronics would just like cloud the thing out. It was like not allowed to do it.
Right. You're not in the moment. I love a phone. I love the internet. I'm on the internet all the time, but I can't get anywhere near a phone on psychedelics. I hate it. If somebody else brings their phone out, I get like grossed out by it. I don't even want to look at it. I don't want it around me. Yeah. Turn the music on and put it away. Yeah, those frequencies are not. Yeah, I get it though, because it's like it's present moment and it's supposed to connect the dots. It's supposed to connect, and we're not supposed to bring it back. You know, it's supposed to like plant seeds, and then those seeds are supposed to kind of grow. And then they come when you need them later. Yeah, know? That's what I've found. And then awakening really is like, we talk about this. I don't know if we talk about it on the podcast, but there's like taking in information, and then there's putting out. I saw like a TikTok that was like, if you're feeling depressed and unsatisfied, you're probably taking in too much and not putting anything out. Mm. And there are days where I am like starving to take in information. And as a one line, it is something that like brings me a lot of satisfaction. And then there are times where I want to put out.
Hey. Yeah. I love those times.
But I think that the first 5 years of awakening is mostly taking in information and processing. I understand people being like, obviously, you know, switching to some sort of consciousness job so long as capitalism still exists. I think most of us agree that if, you know, we could live for free, none of us are interested in participating in the commodification of anything anymore. It's the gatekeeping kind of...
It's the energy. Yeah. And that's, just to be clear, it's not like, it's okay. I think we're still in a 3D reality. We're still in a corporate world. So use the tools that are available to keep yourself alive and sustained. But it's a different energy. Like there's some people that like get they're vampires, the vampiric, like they get information and then they immediately go to try to like scale it up and force feed it to people so they can benefit. And you can feel that energy with certain people that have created these like kind of whatever, like life coaching things or awakening, like, and we both do that. So it's like, I'm not saying it's all bad, but you can feel the energy of it when the way they present themselves, if you do buy a session and the way the information is like very one-sided, it's not open, it's not a service of like giving your full self to them. It's like, it's a very honed in like binary system. And that's, I don't know, that's just, there's so much distorted information out there and there's so many like people with open holes in their aura that like anything can come in and convince you that this is the one way. And like, if you're not able to discern what is that vampiric energy or not, like you can get actually caught up in it. And I think that's a huge thing we're seeing in the New Age spiritual movement. And it has been there for a while, probably since the 70s when it actually started to have a positive effect on people. This other kind of negative energy like started to weed its way into that in a very subtle MK Ultra kind of vibe where it can like purposely distort some truthful information in just the right way that the one who's puppeting it does not realize it and actually thinks that they're helping people and guiding, but they're guiding them into kind of dead ends or just off the real path.
Well, I think getting into spiritual information and not doing shadow work, and even the making shadow work into something that is like systemized. If you're not becoming self-aware and you're just attaining esoteric knowledge, that esoteric knowledge, similar to like we can't access discernment if we've not figured out the ways in which we project, because then you're engaging with your own projections. You're not engaging with discernment. And so how about we saw a lot of this in like the soberish days or whatever, where people are like, spirit said, da, 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 da. And it's like, the spirit that you're connected to, the piece of the imagination that you're connected to is not the end all be all. This is not a fucking Abrahamic religion. Yeah. This is your guides are telling you something, but like it's from your bias, you know? And it's, if we haven't like worked through our own desire to dominate, our own desire to be validated or whatever, and you're engaging with like a teacher who's teaching that stuff, and not to say that I've figured it completely out, but there's just like there's so much shadow stuff happening in the spiritual world. And you know, I guess it needs to happen because people need to learn to take their own agency and not make people gurus. But you get someone who's been awake for 2 years. They're talking about consciousness stuff as if they've been in it for 100 years. And they have a huge shadow of wanting to dominate. And they're charismatic. And so since they're charismatic and they deliver information well, people start to follow them, which is on the people that follow them because that's the only thing we can control.
Yeah.
And you know, they sound like they know what they're talking about, but they have this desire to dominate that they're not aware of because their spiritual practice is about psychedelics, reading books, listening to podcasts, gaining knowledge, which is all just other people's perspectives, and even like some of the least, how do I say this nice? Some of the, I don't like calling people toxic, but some of the most incapable of showing up healthy people I have ever met are real heavy on like spiritual practice. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that everyone who has a rigid spiritual practice is going to show up unhealthy, but there's just a lot in the spiritual communities of people who haven't gotten to know themselves and haven't gotten to know the ways in which perceived rejection makes them show up unhealthy, or needing validation makes them show up unhealthy, or, jealousy and envy make them show up unhealthy, or the desire to dominate, or people pleasing. I mean, people pleasing can be as fucking gross as the other ones. And so then that placing yourself as a spiritual leader when you haven't gotten to know yourself enough to be sure that you're not going to harm people.
Harm people. And like, I think the search for knowledge is valid. Like, we're all searching for knowledge, and you have to search for it externally in the vat of half truths that's everywhere. And so we're going to spend time reading a whole book that like has 10% truth in it, and you're going to take in a lot of the false stuff, and it's going to feel real in the moment because it's new and it's opening your mind. And I think the difference between somebody that's like seeking esoteric knowledge and they've read all the occult books and done all that stuff, but they're not running it through an internal discernment that's like your intuition, that's kind of ever expanding as well, and dropping the stuff at the time that like maybe everybody else agrees on, but for some reason it doesn't resonate with you. That's the like searching for knowledge and running it through intuition. And eventually this moves to, if you have a question about something, you go inside and find it. And you're able to just access it through the the electromagnetic cloud, the Akashic or whatever. But like, as we're getting closer to that, it is like, we still have to kind of dig through the mess of knowledge. And I think the people that end up kind of hurting others and they haven't found themselves is because they read a full esoteric book and then they just regurgitate that exact book to somebody else and go like, oh, well, I know this from this book. And we're all just like sharing all of this information that has purposely been like fucked with and played with so you can't find it. So that, again, it's just this internal discernment that you have to practice. And there's been many things that I've read and been like, oh, I don't resonate with this, and dropped it. And then 2 years later, it comes back and I'm like, oh shit, I totally understand what they're saying. Oh, I get it now. And then it like locks into me.
And then vice versa, things that you thought were...
Oh, yeah. Totally. Like all the time. There's so many things that it goes the same way. And that's what I think it's, for me, when I realized how much distortion and deception is out there and how quickly that like happens when there is a like certain amount of knowledge comes out and it's profound and is helping people, it quickly gets like messed with and distorted. And so it's very hard to find the valid, authentic truth about what's going on. And when people are just like reading the books and watching podcasts and then regurgitating it exactly, is like how it perpetuates and how you end up kind of passing along more deception and confusion to really vulnerable people that have paid to come to you to get healed. And it's like, woo, it's a real slippery slope. And I think I think we've all been there, it's like, it's part of the awakening. And that's why I like the thing you said. It's like, when you start to wake up and you immediately jump to like, well, what do I need to do now? I need to step into my power. It's not quite time yet. There's a,
it's like what do I put out
into
the world? Yeah.
That you have to like just sit and focus on finding the internal self, finding that like that real light and power. And then it takes time to learn how to actually step into it and how to function, and there's a lot of loneliness in that. And it's, it's quite a fucking feat.
Well, this is where, because I think there are key pieces of deconditioning that have to happen, and whatever people do is what they were supposed to do. So I think sometimes baby aliens are out there, you know, making TikToks and having a huge following, and I go like, oh, you're not really far enough in your process to kind of understand what you're doing here. But like, whatever, the people that sync up with you are supposed to sync up with you. Like, I think about people doing sessions with me in 2020 versus now, and my approach is completely different. And I was operating with a completely different set of tools. And sometimes I go, oh, you know, I wish I was using the tools I'm using now. But then I go, well, if you synced up with me in 2020, then that's the frequency I was on and you synced up with it. So you were obviously supposed to get that version of me, you know? And I think it's the same thing for, you know, I'm obviously don't think there should be dogmatic rules about when someone should talk about spirituality. And I also think there's layers of spirituality, and that the New Age movement, I'm not a fan, but in some ways it's a gateway drug, you know, to actually like starting to integrate consciousness. But a few things I see that don't get deconditioned before starting to do this work. Number one is the conditioning around hustle culture, cross-up planning. You got to be doing something. You got to be productive. You got to commodify every fucking thing. That is old energy. And it's just literally a program inside of you. So when you start to have these revelations, like that cross-up planning conditioning tells you, okay, now you got to go produce something with it, you know? And so then people are talking about things before they're ready to talk about things. The other one is black and white thinking, where we are conditioned that everything is this or that. And so it's like, if this part of the book is true, then all of it's true. And along with that is like looking for an external authority. And so if this one Carl Jung quote touched me, then everything he ever said has to be true. I think that that's such and you know, we see this in politics. It's like, I can mostly be left, but then not agree with the way that the Democrats are doing something or whatever. Like, I don't want to be a part of your fucking cult because I want to have my own thoughts and I don't want to have to toe a line. And I can like one quote from someone without it being a wholesale endorsement for two things can be true at the same time. Paradox exists, you know? And so I think that is a massive piece of conditioning that, you know, I see in the New Age movement, like the inability to hold the gradient or the spectrum of experience, the polarity. So everything's like real dualistic. And in that, I think probably the most, I don't want to say dangerous, but inefficient aspect of the spiritual thing is the like all positive or everything's a conspiracy, you know? And so people get like stuck with not being able to face conflict or shadow or bad vibes or whatever the fuck, you know? And so because of that, like if you're rejecting bad vibes, then you're rejecting, I think we talked about this last week, like you're rejecting entire aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
There's one other one, but I lost it. But yeah, I think that is, oh, the other thing is like, I feel like I don't understand this, but the like taking someone else's information and then just evangelizing their information. I get like being excited on a trip, like you're on Laura Yazik's trip. So that's right. And I like the book Robes, but the reason I like the book Robes is because like she wrote the way that I imagine it playing out, you know? And I love the 2027 stuff. I definitely have my own interpretation of it because there's actually not a shit ton of information from human design, which I love because then I get to like just use it as kind of a framework, you know? But the passing on of information is like a game of telephone. And I don't think we realize the extent to which we are all living in our own realities. And words mean different things to different people.
Yes.
And it's through our own lens. And so you and another person can read an entire like wave series book and you're going to come away with something completely different from it. Yeah. And then when you guys go talk about it, it's going to be something. So I don't even know sometimes like if there's even, I think there's natural distortion, but what we call distortion is just different perspectives also. Like I liked that in the Law of One books, where it referred to like everybody's perspective is a distortion.
Right.
And that it's not bad. It's just that we can never truly know capital T truth because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So speaking
and I just lastly with that, that's like when I'm like, I think with a lot of the information that I'm always reading, and then I sometimes like for instance with the wave stuff, I'm very psyched on it, and it's unlocking what it is to me. It's like there's certain ideas presented, and then I'm always like so open-handed when I'm reading a book because I just intuitively get drawn to a book. So I'm like, okay, there's something in here for me, but I don't know where it is. It could be one sentence in the whole book that I'm looking for. And so I'm staying extremely open-handed. And in any given moment, like when there's a profound thing that is presented that I go, whoa, if that's true, then what does that mean for me? Like, what is that? How does that then orient me? I feel like that's actually just thrown off my compass. So let me, and I always like, I'll have to put the book down for a minute when something like that happens, because I wholeheartedly jump in it as like, what if that is capital T truth? Now what? Okay, where am I? What is that? How does that fit into like everything that I feel to be true, that I've gathered, that's like intuitively right for me? Okay, interesting. Whoa, it just like expanded and it opened up like another potential possibility that I also intuitively feel like has been possible, but I didn't know how. And now I see maybe it is possible. And so then that's like it's like running it through your system is like where you find whether it's valuable or not. And then when I go to share it, it's like I'm then trying to share it from my inside, not from like regurgitating it.
Right.
Though often I will go read a passage from the book because it's perfectly worded or something, and it has a code in it that I felt like unlocked, and I want to just amplify the code or something. But so it's like paradoxical. It's really hard to talk about because I've just figured it out myself. It is just like being extremely open and taking on anything temporarily and not quickly evangelizing it, but letting it settle and figuring out what resonates. And I think the Laura Knight stuff is so palpable to me because there's like something that's very universal to it. Like it isn't caught up in some of this like binary thinking, and she's very aware of, you know, my color red is not her color red.
Right.
You know, like she's aware of it. And so she's being able to kind of toe that line and still drop coded information within it. And it just resonates, you know, and a lot of it is so dark and so difficult. And like, that's what makes me go, oh, well, I have to try to figure that out though. Like, can I balance that in my head? And with some work, and if you've like really, you know, gotten in touch with the darker parts of yourself, it's not difficult to understand it and see where it is, you know, because I can put myself in the shoes of some dark reality that like other beings that have a wider perspective. Like I can go, oh, if that's true, like what would I do in that situation? And then I go, oh, I know exactly what I would do. And then I can see where their fucking little trap is. Because like I would do that and I connect with it. Does that mean I'm bad? No, it means I'm in touch with that side of me that wants to eat everything and wants to take. But I have learned discipline to not do that. And like there is no value in it. I see it's a dead end. And that's all just through learning, through like taking external knowledge in and deciphering it inside and dropping certain things and picking something back up when you're ready. And that it's just such a personal process. But I think it's difficult. And especially if you have a desire to get accolades for how conscious and awake you are, like you don't spend time doing that because you get the nugget of truth that resonates and then you want to just go blast it and share it, and only to find out 2 years later that was like a really advanced deception tactic that you just amplified.
I mean, there's two other, like the deconditioning, hierarchical thinking.
Yeah.
Deconditioning us versus them, deconditioning like wanting to be the one that has all the information, like the gatekeeper programming. Like we have all of that. We all have all of that.
That's the predator's mind. That's what I keep saying. It's like it's within, you're in the damn system, you know? It's wild. Okay, let's move on to our comments. Or the thing we want to talk about.
Okay, so I feel like we have to preface this every time we talk about comments because I I yelled at that one guy that one time. But unless the comment you're chastising me like a child, which they rarely are. But I'm probably never going to react great to that because I don't like to be talked to like a child. But usually when we talk about comments, it's because the comment activates like, oh, this is a conversation I've seen on the internet, or I have thoughts about this or whatever. It's not about the commenter. Not that I don't think we're like offended by these, but
I think it's just a good opportunity to like bring up a great conversation piece that like there are ideas that pop up in our heads.
But I think sometimes I end up like riffing, and sometimes we delete them, but I end up riffing on the topic and I go far away from where the commenter was, and then I'm always feel bad, like I hope the commenter knows I wasn't. I like spent 2 seconds on their comment and then moved on. This one I just thought was interesting, and I wanted to say I agree with this. So from my experience, the whole Earth prison experience is, a while back, Jess talked about this idea where we go through these awake and asleep periods of humanity. During the sleeping phases, I believe there is not a lot of random souls coming in and out. It's more closed down. As we awaken, the Earth is more open to souls coming in and out. So that feeling of I don't want to reincarnate, for me, I felt like in myself, and others have been here a really long time and haven't been in and out. So I think that the way that I understand it is that...
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you just read that one more time?
She's basically saying, like, people don't... When we're in asleep phases, people don't reincarnate from out of nowhere. It's like the same souls going in and out through the thing. And that's why people feel like I don't want to reincarnate again. That's why people feel like Earth is a prison planet, because they feel like they've been here for a really long time.
And that there are no new ones coming in?
And that new ones only come in when we go through the awake phase.
Oh, through like the big cycles.
Yeah. Huh. So I do believe that like these like 75,000 year cycles, it is the same souls. Like that's, you have to play through that long. Whether or not beings come in way later to help or whatever that shit we talk about, I don't know. But I know that when I woke up in the blue ball of light and it said that do you want to go back or whatever, both times I came back to look out of my eyes, I had to live my entire life. And that felt like a nod to, like you have to play through the entire game to get to this point. Like you get put so far asleep that it takes 75,000 years to wake up again, if you're lucky. And if not, you have to recycle back through again. So I don't know that I ever really believed that. Like, I think the game is 75,000 years long. I think we're at like 74,000 years right now. And that's not based on anything other than vibes. The impression I get is it's going to take us a full 1,000 years from now to wake up enough to get out of here. And so I don't even resonate that this is anyone's last lifetime, to be honest. But there was something the alien said in 2020 or 2019 about reincarnation had stopped. And I didn't know what that meant. But then I heard that like reincarnation machine, which I didn't know anything about, had gotten shut down. So maybe that's what it was. Or like new souls weren't coming in is what it said. But even like what we consider to be new souls. So I think when we started at 75,000 years ago, and I'm not even sure if that's the number. I think that's the number, right? That's the big cycle.
There's so many different numbers thrown around, and it's really hard to discern because the history has been, the timeline.
Yeah, so whatever that number is, I don't know exactly what the number is, but whatever the big cycle is, maybe it's what's the full procession of the ages? Who cares? Anyway, whatever that is, I don't know what the actual number is.
There are cycles. Yeah, there's like grand cycles.
It's a full cycle, and it's tens of thousands of years at least. That when we start that, let's say it's a big blob of energy, it's split into very small, like the souls are huge compared to right now where the souls are split into so many different people. What's that one? The lake book? That really resonates with me, where the soul goes back to like a lake.
It's like a soup. Yeah. Like when you're separate from the soup, you have a certain amount of individuation.
Yeah.
And then when you go back into that, the individuation scatters into
which
one
is why
whole.
multiple people think they were Cleopatra in a past life.
Because you kind of are. There's a part of you that is.
Right. And so the soup in, let's say, whatever, 20,000 years ago there was way less humans. It was the same souls, just bigger pieces of souls in each human. Right now, due to the nature of the cross of planning, we have the souls split, like super fractured off into billions and billions of people, which I don't think is going to be the case in 500 years. But yeah, I do believe it is the same. And even the sensation that we have that we just showed up at the end for that, I don't know that means we didn't play through.
Yeah,
So.
I don't either. I think that there is so much of this is hard to talk about because I've been trying to work in like holding this. I don't know if I can hold it, but like trying to tap into what is existence like out of linear time. And
it's hard.
It's really hard. And I don't think it's completely possible to like hold that until you're in a fourth density reality, because an inherent part of fourth density is not linear time. And when you can be in that existence, like you see very clearly that it's all a present moment thing. But when you're in the game, you can't see that because it's a part of like the illusion. It's a part of the gift of being able to learn the lessons through like a linear timeline. So often when we're in it and we're trying to conceive of like, where are we in the timeline, we have to use these numbers and like 75,000 years. And then there's a fear of like, I don't want to fucking spend that much time doing this again.
Yeah.
But if you can start to like tune into that idea that they're, you know, just even with this like time traveling Nazis thing that I've like talked about before, they're in the present now, like from a fourth density reality, there are beings like jumping back to caveman times or like when Jesus was alive and adjusting things that then right now in this focused moment has an effect.
Right.
And if you can have discernment, you can see it. And that's what people are starting to see, the Mandela effect. We're seeing the timeline fluctuations, but that's all happening from like right now. And so then when you can really, it's really difficult, but when I try to start to fathom that, it doesn't make the thing as scary, I guess, when you're like, okay, there's 1,000 more years. I'm 40 now. Unless there's some kind of technology or something that happens when this wave cycle comes in and we start to live in a third density blended with fourth density, that maybe life cycles can extend. And I do believe that. I think we're on the precipice of that.
Yeah.
Just if you start to like take care of your body and have some discipline and stop, you know, like lowering the poison that's coming in, you can see in your face, like you de-age, you kind of feel younger and you have more energy and like you're healthy. And so I think we're on the precipice of like hacking that. And we very well may be in this same body for another 1,000 years or whatever it takes to get to that cycle. Some people though that can't get off the train of the poisons or the like addictions and stuff, you might have to jump into another body. And I think whenever we switch a body like that, like when you go through that death portal and you're back into 3D, like you have to forget it. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend, you know, for me, it took 30 years for me to actually start to wake up. I don't know if you have to experience it that way. You might come back in and actually remember quickly and then do more work, have more time to get the work done to like make the leap. But I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's really hard to conceive of. There's a lot of really interesting information out there about these concepts that like some of them resonate. Some of them I'm like, I just don't know how you could know that without going through the death portal and staying awake and coming back and knowing. And then I do believe that there are some beings that are like a higher density soul that can like oscillate themselves down into this heavier experience and do some kind of work and then pop out. But those are the people that like they seemingly like they don't have a birth or a death. You know, they kind of like
ascended master type shit.
Yeah, and they kind of like move into a body temporarily and do some work and then move out, and like nobody knows that happened.
Oh yeah, like walk-ins and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a walk-in kind of phenomenon, and it can happen temporarily. It can like take over a body just for a week or something, you know. Because, and again, it's just like the idea that there is the linear time doesn't exist on a higher level is so difficult to conceive of, because we're so trained to think in linear time, you know. And
right.
But I think that's been really helpful for me to attempt it and try to like constantly be in the present moment. And I know like in certain meditations I've had, when you really can dilate that out and you can be super present, linear time does slow down, and you start to like get more information that seems like it is in the past, but it actually is right now. And like that the veil thins or something, and you can kind of see everything happening at one moment. But then when I come out of the meditation and think linearly, it's like, it was a long time ago and it's not now, you know. It's
right.
Like the immediate response to it. Yeah, that's interesting.
So that makes sense as far as like why some souls feel tired. Mm-hmm. Is because as you start to wake up, the awareness of how long you've been playing this fucking game starts to kick in. So yeah, that definitely resonates.
That was like one of my early trips, was that like I had in that space, there was a like deep knowing that I had done this a ton of times, and there was an annoyance of a different part of me that was like, how many times do you want to do it? Like, this is a school. Like you keep like kind of failing it, and you keep going back, and like maybe you're addicted to the illusion and the physical experience. But in that state, it was kind of a crisis, because I was like, it was as if my whole life that I had lived this time, like I had even done that a number of times. Like I've repeated it very similarly, like where I joined Malbec, and then I joined Foster the People, and then there was this, and like a huge part of me leaving was that I felt like there was a fork in the road, where the last time I stayed in some hopes of achieving something that was actually just like a material thing, and there was a knowing that like that doesn't satiate, and it's a dead end. But the programmed part of me, the like ego part, was still wanting that fulfillment, you know, quote fulfillment. But the thing that like dawned on me when I did achieve success, that I've talked about before, where I was like, this doesn't satiate like I thought it would, is what made me start to open up to the idea that like maybe there's a different path for me, and it doesn't logically make sense, but this split fork in the road was like, I needed to go this other direction and experiment. And it felt like when I was in that trip that I had not made that attempt, and it was worth going. Like, I don't know what that is. That could be a dead end either, but I've done the other one a couple times and it doesn't work. And I don't know why. I can't logically make sense of it, but it feels like it doesn't work. So I'm going to just take the leap and go this other direction. And as I've, grounded this timeline, to me, it's very much the way out. I could be wrong. Maybe I got another cycle, but it feels much more, I'm learning like newer lessons that I had never learned in other past lives. And that feels like I'm on a trajectory to, as they say in the STO language, is like we're working to become a candidate for fourth density STO. You don't become that fully while you're in the 3D reality, but we're going into this, split that is going to be kind of a fourth density blend with the 3D. And then if you become a candidate, you kind of secure your position in a physical body with whatever cataclysm or whatever kind of event that comes to like really demark the newer density. Like you make it through, And then there are now new lessons because you're living in a reality that linear time is no longer a thing. So you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to, rely on information from your internal connection to the source or the Akashic and not go to the computer for the information and all these other new lessons that are like, I don't know what I'm doing there yet. So like, but I think to me, that's what this transition is to try to like make the jump up out of time and 3D. And it's not a click. It is kind of a slow blend into it,
Yeah. I have to pee again.
I kind of do now too. I gotta wait for Jessa to get the bar out of her teeth, out of her fake grill.
Yeah, it's really hard when your teeth aren't real because you don't know. Things are stuck to it. If you want to move the podcast to a different location, maybe we should just move it to the bathroom.
That or outside. The
no.
sun would be so nice. And then I can just pee in the bushes. You could do that too if you wanted.
How nice for you. No, I don't need to pee on my socks. All right. The next comment. Please just be real with us and say that you want to eat animals. There isn't a nutrient deficiency on the planet that can't be solved with a plant-based diet. I believe the parasite that motivates us to eat flesh and thus continue a cycle of suffering will pull every trick in the book to try and convince us that it's important and must be appeased, but it's not. Also, despite my bitching, I love this pod.
Wonderful comment.
Well, I have several thoughts.
I have so many thoughts.
So, I mean, first, personally, I don't derive pleasure from food anymore. I don't give two fucks about eating anything. I wish that literally we could just do away with eating. When I derived pleasure from food, it was sugar, cheese, and bread. And I can't have any of those anymore. And so I don't care about food. It's not fun anymore. It hasn't been fun in a long time. And I eat a diet of primarily steak and sweet potatoes and beef bacon. And I eat so much steak. I think steak is like some pleasurable thing for people who don't eat steak very often, but it's literally my entire diet. It's quite boring. I have, and I don't know about nutrient deficiency. I think that's an interesting, like, oversimplification of what the body needs. So I have what I assume is probably POTS. I probably have all of the comorbidities of autism, and I just don't, I have figured out ways to manage them on my own. But I have some sort of blood sugar, blood pressure thing that I have very naturally low blood pressure. My blood sugar, I don't know what it is, but I feel faint very easy throughout the day. And if I stand up too fast, I could faint. And it's been like this my entire life. And the only food that stops me from having these weird, like I feel like I'm outside of my body. There's kind of like a weird, I'm having it right now because I need to eat. I'm sure it's like hypoglycemia or something, but carbs do not help that at all. I also have crazy digestive issues. And so it's a very, very small amount of food that my body doesn't reject. And so I'll end up very bloated and then I won't go to the bathroom for, weeks. And so literally when I say that the only things my body will eat is like meat and then occasionally egg. I mean, like I'll go through phases where eggs, but I've eaten so many eggs in my life that my, my brain can't handle. I haven't eaten eggs in a while. And sweet potatoes, most vegetables blow my, intestines up, they just like swell and hurt. And, that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Grains, cause insane inflammation in my body. And so my joints will hurt, and I'll put on like 3 pounds of water. And so my body determines what food I eat by what food it will tolerate. And that is just the reality of my life. And if that is not the reality of your body, then congratulations. I'm happy for you. But this is one of those things where it's tricky. It's similar to, you know, Mark is now off of substances. And so now he's talking like, you know, it's the poisons, you know,
Yeah.
but like 2 months ago when I was like, hey, you're taking in a lot of poison, he's like, fuck off. This is my life. So like, I am also like mindful of that. But I think the religion of veganism is, you know, I think it's great for the people that it's great for. Now, as far as the cycle of suffering, I don't hold that perspective. And I think if you do hold that perspective, it makes perfect sense. And when you present it as a parasite trying to get us to eat meat, that all makes sense. And I think if that's the reality you live in, you should live in it, especially if your body likes vegetable, like likes to eat like that. I have tried everything. I have tried every single potential diet under the sun, including raw veganism. And it was great for a few weeks. And then this fainting like whatever the fuck this is that I have, which is, I think, POTS. Now I've recently started learning about POTS. You know, it got really bad and I was like fainting. And I had a very complex, you know, and then I was regular vegan for a while, and my guts did not like it. My body did not like the diet, the things that you need to eat, like beans and legumes or whatever, like not a fucking option with my digestive system, not an option. Extreme pain and chronic constipation. So my body likes what it likes, and I am completely open to that changing. But to be honest, I think that we will stop eating meat because we will stop eating and we will stop living in the density. The meat is dense, right? And I think that part of what I experience as fainting is like me kind of leaving my body. I think it's hard for me to be grounded into my body, and that the meat helps me ground into my body. And often what I recommend when someone's in kind of spiritual psychosis is that they go eat a burger, you know, go get red meat, like ground you back in. Now, as far as the cycle of suffering, I, as someone who has died, do not have the same relationship to death that other people have. I do believe that we are one thing. The cannibals, the beings eating the other beings, it's all one thing. Just like when I'm dreaming, I'm every aspect of that dream. I don't believe in the hierarchy of experiences. There are obviously experiences I would rather have, but I have definitely lived lifetimes as animals being eaten by other animals. Animals in nature eat each other. It is the nature of the reality that we are currently in. And the soul has that experience because it is synced up to that experience. We as humans like project this innocence onto the animals or whatever, but it's the soul that is connected to that experience, synced up to that experience for the purpose of understanding that experience, because that is the way that I understand. When I died and came outside of life, like I can't express to you the instant understanding that I had that all of the shit that we think matters does not matter. All the suffering is an illusion. It's a dream. And so what I do believe in is that and this is just my belief system, that there are energy exchanges. And so the cruel robotic treatment of animals in the practices of like Western, you know, big ag or whatever carry energy, and that when you eat that, you are taking on that energy, and that it is bad for your body. And so we eat from local farms of like ethical farms, like practices where the animals are treated well and not, you know. But whether or not they shouldn't be, I just don't resonate with that. When we stop, it's this like from my perspective, this perspective is this kind of savior perspective. And then it's kind of this idea that like, well, if we didn't eat these animals, then they would just be running free, having a great life. And it's like, no, they wouldn't exist. They're being bred for the point of eating. And I can certainly get down with like, one day we're not going to do that. Absolutely. And the day that I can just eat, I don't know, just sweet potatoes without passing out on the floor. And I'm not deficient in any vitamins. I get blood work all the time. It's just simply the way that my body operates. I don't know. Then I will stop eating it because it's fucking expensive and it's a pain in the ass to procure, if I'm being honest. And it takes up a ton of my time and energy. And I'm constantly bitching about the fact that I wish there was just a food pill we could take because I don't care about it. The day I was no longer able to eat stringy cheese coming off of pizza, I stopped giving a fuck about food. So, I don't receive this projection, but I understand the perspective. It just is not. I think this is where these things become a team sport or a religion that we get our impression. And I do this all the time, so no judgment to this commenter, but like it's the same thing where I look at someone who smokes weed every day and it's like, yeah, my impression of that is that you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Or that it is escapism. That doesn't mean I'm right. It's just in my perspective. And really my perspective is for me. It's for me to then decide not to alter every day. But I get it. Like I get this perspective. And I think the last thing is that I also think it's a weird materialist view as these things start to come into my awareness. I don't know, if it has a heartbeat or if it has a brain, it's more alive than a plant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not a full understanding of
everything's
the realm.
conscious, right? Everything's conscious. And so I think that, we are still coming out of this hierarchical thinking of, humans are at the top and then animals are second because they have hearts and brains or whatever. And then we project that they can understand what's going on. But I do think we will evolve out of it. And so I'm not close to that. I do not believe that I have parasites possessing me. I've had parasites. I've had like quantifiable parasites that I've had to get rid of. They made me crave sugar and starch, to be honest, is what they made me crave. Do I have some sort of meat parasite? I don't know. I guess I could find that out. But I do think that different people live on different frequencies and need to eat different things. And in the human design perspective, I do want to do an episode on digestion one day. Like different people have different ways they are supposed to digest. And you have the kind where you are not supposed to eat your food in the light, which is like weird, but you are someone who could like literally never start eating until 5 p.m. and be fine. Yeah. And weirdly, our dining room light broke. And so we eat it in the dark. I have one where I'm supposed to pick 1 or 2 foods that my body likes and that are local. And that's all I eat. And that's literally how I eat. And I have throughout my lifetime tried to force myself to eat more food because different kinds of food, because like other adults would make fun of the lack of variety in my diet. But if I'm being very true to myself right now, it is. I mean, there's a few more things. It's like dates. But I mean, pretty much every day I eat the same thing. It's like, and it's mostly red meat.
And it works for you.
And it works. Yeah. And it's like my body thrives. And when I start to go away from that, I swell up. I mean, you can visibly see the inflammation on my body and my digestive system doesn't work. So.
Yeah, well, that beautifully said. You said everything pretty much that I was going to offer as well. But just to add a couple things, like I do think part of we get caught up in like the morality of some of this stuff, and that's valid, and it's a part of the growing process of like figuring these things out. For me, when I've moved through the different diets, I was vegan for a long time, then I was vegetarian. Primarily was moral based, a new revelation of like, Jesus, all these animals are really being tortured. I don't want any part of that. And so I enjoyed meat, but I was like, I'm willing to give it up because I can't be a part of it. And then I was vegan first for a couple of years, then vegetarian. And during that time, I did become unhealthy. Like I became really skinny. I couldn't put on muscle. I couldn't put on weight at all. I would eat so much and was trying to eat whole food, like very healthy. I started to have psoriasis, dandruff, low energy, started having thyroid problems, was still sticking to it because of my moral superiority, like perspective that it was like, well, no, it can't be the food because this is more pure, you know? And not until I feel like haphazardly, or just because I didn't really was in a situation where I couldn't have veggies or something, had some meat and felt alive. Like,
well, I
right
think you
away.
got into a relationship with it was before we met.
Yeah, it was before. I had like kind of just tiptoed back into it, and I started to have just like fish and chicken, but felt like an uptick in my energy and like clarity. And was in denial of it because I was like, no, this is not, you got to stay disciplined, like moral superiority here, you know? And, slowly like oscillating off and on. And then finally just going like, one of the things that clicked was there's so much information out there about the positive aspects of veganism. And then there's a lot of people that start to argue the carnivore thing. And I started listening to some of those, and I've always lived as this kind of animist perspective. I didn't call it that when I was younger, but again, that was the motivation to be vegan, was I didn't want to hurt anything. But then there were arguments about like, hey, plants have life too, you know, like maybe they're not thinking like an animal, but there's life there and you're eating that. What is the difference? And I was like, that argument came up and I was like, holy shit, fuck. And I wasn't even aware that there's like actual, like you can communicate with plants. Like, and I do that now. And it's like, for me, I don't need to prove it. I'm communicating. It's fully there and it's real.
Well, I think now they've proven, like they can sense that you're on your way home. Yeah. But we're talking about you who won't throw out a moldy fucking couch because you're afraid of hurting its feelings.
Yes. And so I was just like, oh my God, like I can't eat. I guess I just can't eat. And then it was like, well, no, you can't survive. So I'm like, well, what do? I just have to fucking do liquid, like water? Like what? You know? And then what I realized, like over time, I didn't have a full view of like what's going on in this realm, right? It's like I'm making assumptions by what I've been taught. And like the animals feel, I'm connected to my pets. I can connect to a cow. I don't want to eat the cow. But then I'm at a paradox when it's like the plants too, though. And again, at the time, I wasn't necessarily communicating, but I knew that I felt for the plant and I didn't want to eat it either. And so here's a new understanding that I think is like very basic and simple that can help give a general like idea of the scenario we're in with these like levels of existence that all go together and operate from, depending on what level you're in. If you can understand the whole thing, you can see what you need to survive. And we are working up that level to eventually get to a place where you don't derive sustenance from other physical beings. I think we do get fourth density as a place where I don't think you eat. You derive energy from light and exchange with others.
Right.
So we're moving towards that. And so the realm is like this. You have the mineral realm. Always what seems to occur is like whatever realm is above that feeds off the lower one. And that is a synergetic fractal pattern that is integral to the whole thing. There's no morals here. Just look at it as like function. So you have the mineral realm. What feeds on the mineral realm? Plants. The whole plant kingdom feeds off of the mineral realm. Let's go one level up. What do most animals feed off of? Plants. And some of the more advanced animal species, they eat each other. And you could probably say within the plant kingdom too, there are certain plants that like devour each other. There are a lot of vines outside that like climb up trees and kill the tree, essentially like taking nutrients from the tree. So you have like overlap in all of these. But then from that level, it's the humans. And I think like obviously the animal eating the plant is getting the minerals too. So it tears down.
Right.
So as a human, we are no morals, function. We are meant to eat the most lower species for most pure and high functioning operation within the vehicle. So the vehicle's eating the animals is going to be the best source to get all the minerals that you need, instead of going to try to get each little mineral from the fucking rock or the river and trying to put it in supplement form. No, it's like eat the cow and you get the nutrients from the plants that the cow ate, and you get the minerals. You get all of it within going to that main source. Now, we can eat the plants and stuff, but I think we have to remember that the animal's digestive system was all set up to process the plants. They can eat poisonous plants that are like poisonous to us, and they can process them. It does not affect them. Their makeup is meant to process that. If we are humans and we're skipping the animal realm and we're going straight to the plants, you got to be real careful with what you eat, because our system's not set up to just go straight to the plants. And so this is why a lot of people do have problems with processing certain vegetables, because they are like, they're carcinogenic to them, you know? And it's also
like they cause cancer, or do you mean that something else?
They can cause cancer. Well, they're poisonous. They don't, you can't, there's more negative effects than positive effects from it. And, you know, the plant system is set up to function like it is inherently poisonous so it can protect itself. And animals know how to eat like the ones that are not going to kill them. But there are still some vegetables that like an animal can eat and a human cannot, you know. It's a very complex system, but just the general rule is like one level up eats the others. And you can play this forward. It's like the beings that are above us, what do they eat? They eat us. And I think it's like very, you know, it's a dark world. They do eat physically. It's very not it's not the primary source of eating. But yes, they're eating our energy. They're eating our emotions and our fear. That's why the reality is meant to do that. Catalyze fear and emotion so they can eat. And again, if the full understanding, that shouldn't scare you. It should be like, oh, that's the function of it. And I'm moving up the scale to not do any of that. But you have to learn through all of those experiences to understand the whole thing. And so that's how I see it now. And when I started to understand that, I was like, my moral thing is not really justified within the bigger picture of everything. It is, of course, like I think there is, where the morals exist is like, I don't partake in the factory farming stuff. Like I'm not eating from a restaurant that I don't know for sure is like doing its best to source from a positive place. And there's a lot of deception in that now too. So you really have to like, if you really want to do that, you have to do a lot of research. But so I believe there's like a proper way to do it and not take on energy, like negative energy from another animal. And with this higher awareness of knowing how the whole system functions, I also bring a lot of intention and awareness of understanding the process. And like, so when I'm having meat, a lot of the times I just internally have a moment and say like, thank you for being here for me. And you died for this. And I'm now going to make your death worth it because I see that. And I'm gonna, I'm taking the nutrition to help me, but like you're now inside of me. You live inside of me in some way. And so there's like a connection there that I think is very beautiful that can be for my morals that I had problems with. They're now okay. And I feel okay eating the meat because I have that relationship with it. And I understand the levels of existence that are purposely there.
Right.
And that's a huge lesson that I had to learn that I think is just very valuable for moving up and understanding the game that you're in. And so then back to my veganism thing is like when I got over that and then started just listening to my body instead of trying to put this moral thing over it, I then was allowed to like see what resonates and not. And oddly enough, like veggies, they don't resonate a lot of the times. I still have them, and I mostly go for the microgreens because a lot of the times they're like grown in hydroponics, and so they're less likely to have like chemicals in them from the outside. Yes, there's still shit in there, and they're very nutrient dense, so you get a lot of packed punch from just like the tiny stuff. And I love over like a steak or something, I like having that fluffy green in it. I use it for seasoning and things. But now, like when I'm just honest with my body, it's like that the meat makes me feel right. I can put on muscle mass. I don't have like fat. No skin problems. All the skin problems are gone. No dandruff. My thyroid's now back leveled. Like, and I can't deny that. It's like it works. The veganism didn't work, and I tried it, and I had never had any of those issues until I changed my diet. And for me, I feel lucky that I can kind of still eat pretty much anything, and it doesn't totally tear me down. If I do go straight like veggies, it definitely, my stomach, like it's difficult for a while, and it can adapt. But I can have milk, and I can have sugar, and I can't have full bread. Most of the bread my body doesn't like it because of the glyphosate, I guess. There's something that's off, but certain like sourdoughs are fine. Bread from other countries is totally fine. And then another thing, that there's just so much information out there right now that if you're not one-sided, you can like get a lot of really valuable information that people that are studying it. And another huge thing that's just made me like kind of, it's eye-opening, is that the plants are like absorbing a lot of these toxins that are in, whether it's pesticides that they're growing them with, and they have to do that to make it available in every fucking store. So, and I understand that. I wish there was a different way. There is a more natural way to do it, but you can't do it on mass scale. So that's just the situation we're in. And these veggies, like, they're sponges. They absorb whatever is in the water that you're putting on it, whatever chemical you put on the leaf. Yeah, you can rinse it off, but the chemical makeup of the plant, it's now in the plant. It's deep within it.
Right.
The chemtrails and everything, it's like all the metals, that shit's all being found in vegetables. And so there's nothing you can do about that unless you're growing your own vegetables, and frankly, like inside, because it's in the air. So, and that takes a lot of fucking work. And
not to mention, like, what we've done to the soil doesn't even have nutrients in it.
Yeah, there's so many things that have been poisoned. It's just really difficult to do that. And again, the payoff that you're getting from the vegetables, like, is just, you're really not able to get all the minerals. And I understand this person like has that argument, and I think there's probably some roundabout way to like amplify it and get enough minerals. But most vegans and vegetarians that like I think are on that trip, but their body's actually not wanting them to do it, they're having to supplement a lot of vitamins with, the B12s and the creatine, the stuff that you can really only get in the proper amount from meat. And that's a whole nother topic that I think I've started to learn more about, and that also just resonates in my intuition, that supplementing those things is like a whole processed like operation. And I don't know if I really believe that you can get vitamin D from like whatever source that they're getting it from, or whether they're synthetically creating it. If you want vitamin D, go to the best source, and it's the fucking sun. Get out in the sun, and you're going to get so much more vitamin D that is you're going to be able to use than trying to supplement it with the powders. And then the other thing is like going whole foods is like really important, because if you're trying to get, like, let's say I'm vitamin C deficient and I just go for the supplement, I'm getting just the vitamin C. But if I didn't have that opportunity, where would I go get vitamin C? I'd go to the fruits, the citruses. And within that orange, I'm getting the vitamin C, but there's like a bunch of other minerals in there that go with the vitamin C that help activate the vitamin C. And I don't think we fully understand the complex mechanism that is there that's helping you get the mineral, like when you get it in whole food form, because there's an entire network in there that like synergizes together for you to absorb that. And so I think the supplemental like industry that has like arisen it can be helpful and useful in certain ways. I think like I take supplements on certain things, but I'm definitely not going to be taking vitamin D a lot if I can get in the sun. If it's winter and I'm like really down, then yeah, I'm going to supplement it and be smart. And so you got to work with what you got. But again, this bigger understanding of how it's all working in a fractal form, I think really has helped me make those decisions and listen to my body. And that has worked really well for me. But I see the deception and I get the moral thing. I hate fucking hurting anything. But when you can see the system and have the intention and give it love in that way, to me, it equalizes it. It feels like that in me. But I'm, I also, the idea of fasting right now is like becoming more and more prominent, and people that do it and people that are studying it, there is so much benefit from it. And I think that's because we're finally at a level where we are blending into this fourth density, and we're practicing getting up into that and
getting off the food.
Yeah, and getting off the food. And that's what I feel like I'm moving towards. And I intermittent fast all the time. Almost not on purpose. It's just sometimes forget. And I'm not like motivated by food. It's not, I eat the same kind of things too. It's not like some kind of dopamine hit for me. I like making it taste good. It tastes good, but I would much rather not have to be in this fucking loop of making a meal all the time.
Oh, God, every time it's like, what are we making for dinner? We're both like, fuck, dude, every day?
Yeah.
You have to eat every day? Whose idea was this?
And
I definitely still
thing.
have dopamine things with food. It's just they're not meat.
Yeah.
It's like...
And the shitting thing, I don't want to, do we have to fucking like take in and poop out and pee out? Like, it's like so annoying. I'm wasting so much time. So I do think we get to a place where that's no longer a thing, but you can't jump to that. You have to move through the cycles, and we learn through becoming aware of the cycles. And once you know it, then you can start to move in when it feels right, when your body's at the right level, then you can start to fast. And then, eventually we're going to get into a place where we don't need it. But like, you can't just fast out of nowhere too. If you're on like a veggie diet and you're like eating this abundance of food and barely getting enough minerals, and you try to fast, it's like you don't have any energy. It's really difficult. For me, when I'm like on a carnivore kind of diet and I really get to a place where I'm like sustained, it's very easy for me to go a whole day and not eat, actually, because I'm electric and I'm like lit up, and so
I just think there are people for whom a veggie diet is perfect. It's great.
And that's the other thing.
And it works for you. And
dude,
that's great.
There's so many people, like a lot of indigenous tribes, a lot of people that I see, like, and they are lit up on veganism, and it works for them. And I think they're just different frequency. I think genes is a huge thing too. Whatever genetic makeup we are kind of dictates like past patterns that we have, if we came from like a caveman, it's like we just need meat. It's like kind of in our genes. Some people came from, their genes are in an island where like the things they ate were fruit and vegetables, and it gives them enough energy.
Right. And I think this is a great, it's the differentiation, and it's tricky when like you or I feel like we learned a lesson about sobriety, not to be like everyone has to be sober, or when we first met, you were still pretty fucking vegan. I mean, you're vegetarian. You ate like chicken twice a week or something.
Yeah.
But you still were morally very vegan. And I was like, okay, well, this is about to be a fucking butcher shop because me and my kids eat a lot of red meat. And you would like not eat with us a lot of time. And at the time, to be honest, you were on like stoner diet where you did eat a lot when you ate meals. They were like big whole food meals and stuff. But there was a lot of sugar and snacking and stuff happening in there because of the weed. And so your body rejected red meat. Like you weren't into it at all. And so we had basically two different like dinners for a long time because I can't eat the way that you eat.
Yeah.
And you couldn't eat the way that I ate, but you still very much had like kind of the moral like perspective on it and stuff. And then obviously like being able to not eat factory farming is also a privilege that, I didn't always have. So, that
I still think if all you can do is eat factory farming stuff or the cheap stuff, if you can have that intention, it's like you can make that shit go away. There's no time, remember, so it's like things dead and gone, but like the energy's still there. You can balance it out by seeing it for what it is, apologizing or whatever makes sense to you, just doing a little ritual. I think that meat can become much more absorbed in a proper way, that you don't pick up that energy.
Yeah, because my perspective, going back to the like lake of like, I see the soul, the giant soul that is experiencing Earth right now as like a droplet of mercury. And when we split off and go have a lifetime, we're still a part of the mercury. You know what I mean? You're a drop of water and also the ocean. And so when a cow comes into the life and it has its life and then dies to become food and I eat it, that drop of mercury goes into this drop of mercury, which will eventually go back into the drop of mercury. I mean, that's truly the way that I look at life. It's not to justify my diet. I don't have the same moral compass here, but it's the exact same thing when the coyotes eat the baby deer, you know?
Right.
It's not a moral fucking failing of the coyote. And, you know, I know in the vegan versus carnivore, there's like a lot of semantics and stuff of like, it just kind of is what it is. You know, it just that I don't actually believe in stopping suffering through any means other than consciousness reaches a point where it doesn't serve a purpose anymore. And I also just don't resonate with that model of perspective. It's just not my perspective. I've played with it. It just doesn't resonate with me. So, but I don't think like other people should take on my perspective. I just think that this is a great kind of different. Like, I truly believe that reality is subjective. Reality is subjective. There is no objective one way that everything should be done. We are colonized into thinking that because we are easier to control when we believe that. And the reason that I know that reality is subjective is because there are so many different people living in so many different realities with so many different religions and so many different cultures. Not one of them is true or right or objectively right. We keep chasing this objective truth by positioning ourselves as like we are right and other people are wrong, you know, where it just quite simply is. If you live in a world where there's parasites telling people to eat meat, cool, then don't eat meat. And I don't resonate with it. I might wake up one day and feel different. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But like I don't currently, like, that doesn't resonate with my reality at all.
It's such a gift to just like be able to listen to whatever works for you and not worry about other person doing it wrong, doing it differently, that like you're right and they're wrong or you're wrong and they're right. The more I learn that, like, and I'm becoming more sensitive as I like grow. But, you know, even just as an example with the substances I was on, it was like motivating me to just eat a lot of sugar and starch, carbs and stuff. And oddly, I was like kind of repulsed by meat, not like just my body. Like, it didn't want meat. You would offer me bacon in the morning. I was kind of like, ugh, I would probably puke if I had it.
Beef bacon. I don't eat pork.
I don't eat pork either. That's the only one. I primarily it's cow, and fish and chicken here and there. But I'm starting to like just not vibe with the chicken. Sardines and like all the small fish is like really, really great. Packs a punch of minerals and less mercury and metals. But these things outweigh themselves. Another sides thing I just wanted to mention about the cow, which is really interesting too, is because some people might think the animals are like kind of absorbing some of these chemicals and things. And I think the smaller animals do. Like, for instance, if they're eating plants that are fed to them that have pesticides on them, like that's going to get into the animal meat a bit. I think some of it does process through the digestion. Specifically, cows are little magical beings because they got that one of a kind 3 stomach system thing going on, or however many stomachs, where they're processing that their feed through such a like wonderful system that actually weeds out, gets rid of all of the pesticides and all the poisons. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. And then it comes out in its excrement. So it's not in the meat. So eating a cow is actually like one of the best places to get clean feed, like clean energy, and not have the poison because the cow is getting rid of it for you. So I think that's just something, food for thought, literally. And then the other thing, but back to my thing, when I stopped the substances, being able to tune into your sensitivity, it was like my body was like craving fermented foods and like vinegar, pickles, olives, and kimchi. Is like I could not stop thinking about it. And so I actually, like, for the first couple of days, it was just kimchi and olives and stuff, because my body was like, you got to reset this system. And I think part of that was the feel free bullshit, like really messes with your gut. And so just following that, it was like it satisfied me, and it started to make my gut health come back to life. And then pretty quickly immediately there was no craving of sugar. And then I was like a massive craving for meat again, specifically steak and beef bacon. And it helped my detox. It helped me like withdrawal, helped me come back online by just listening to what your body needs. It's like, okay, we now know we're done with that shit. Let's get you back online. If I just am going to listen to my moral compass, like I wouldn't maybe have done that, you know? And so it was so helpful for the experience I was going through by listening to what your body wants, you know, and going with it. And if it is veggies, then go with that. That's what your body wants, and your genes are set up for that. You know, there is no one way. I think fermented veggies is like what I would like to mostly eat veggies like that, because the fermentation process helps balance out any kind of bad chemical that was in there, gets rid of that, and then all the amazing bacteria that comes from that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that's my final thoughts on that comment.
Final thoughts. All right. So Kelsey and I can't remember if I talked about this on here, but Kelsey and I are launching a 2027 course about the actual like technical aspects of the switch from the cross of planning to the cross of sleeping phoenix, that is super in-depth and exhaustive for people that want to like truly geek out on this shit. The course starts April 28th, I want to say, but registration is open now on my website. The course is $227. If that's cost prohibitive, it'll be available for cheaper after the course is finished. You can get the archived version then. So I'll talk about that when we get to that sometime in the summer. The live course, there'll be a Discord server to, you know, chat about everything. Kelsey and I will do a live call, like live stream every week for about 2 hours, where we'll talk about the construct, because each of the constructs like go in a place. And so we'll talk about what the lock is, what the area of life is, what the construct in the cross of planning was in that area of life, what the construct of the cross of sleeping phoenix is going to be in that life. And then my role is to kind of talk about the real life applications of that and my observations and stuff.
Nice.
And so, yeah, that's available on my website. We are going to kind of limit the registration if it starts to get crazy. So
that sounds amazing. I'm going to sign up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so stoked because I feel like Kelsey knows a lot of stuff that I try to get information on and can't find it.
It's such an important thing, like that 2027 thing, this transition we're moving into. Like the more I start to learn about it, like daily life starts to make so much more sense. And so it's so much easier to make like aligned decisions with getting this blueprint of an idea of where we're going, you know?
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm stoked. So we've been talking about doing, and I think we're also going to get into the gene key aspect of it, I think, if we have time. Because each of those gates, like really getting to know the gate that was the construct in the cross of planning, and then getting to see the gate that it's being replaced by. And I think doing it right now is the perfect time to do it, because I feel like enough of the cross of sleeping phoenix has come into focus that I can really kind of point to like, this is the conditioning that it was, and this is the conditioning that it's going to be. So yeah, I haven't been this like activated and excited about a project in a long time. So it's,
and Kelsey's, so much knowledge about this stuff.
Yeah. Kelsey is the left brain to my right brain. Yeah. It's just, we've done a lot of work together on TikTok, or not TikTok, my brain.
Patreon.
I need the left brain, on Patreon. And she just it's such a fun combination of energies because she's very good at the that part, the left brain stuff, and we have the opposite arrows where I'm top 2 right, bottom 2 left,
so
and
you perfectly fit
she's
each
the
other.
opposite. Yeah, so working together is great because we're just the perfect yin and yang energies.
Perfect key and lock.
So jessery.com, it's the first option on the menu. 2027, the breakdown.
And then you can find my sessions at markpontius.com.
All right, love you. Bye.
Bye.